All right, I'm back. I'm up for part two, man.
They spoke Spanish. Read. From the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flies. What's the symbol for America? 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 The eagle. These other nations came against Ephraim.
He's right about that. The symbol for America is the eagle. But he's not going to give you the full spectrum of it. He's not going to give you all the analysis. As he's reading Deuteronomy 28, verses 48 and 49. I'm going to show y'all why.
Spanish, go ahead. A nation of fair countenance, which shall not regard the presence of the old, nor show favor to the young. They didn't care. They slaughtered anybody. Little kids, if you didn't pick up the diamonds and gold, they'll cut your hands off. These people didn't care. They hang you on trees. They did the same thing to the Ephraimites in the Dominicans, so forth and so forth. Peruvians, Colombians, the same thing. They hung them from trees.
Yeah, but the question is, what did those people look like? That's the big question. That's one of the analysis that none of these camps out there, like the Iuic and all the rest of these other niggas out there, don't want to bring forward to the table, as well as all these other parasites that want to stand right next to him, perpetrating the front to trying to beat us, or not trying to bring forward to the public. And I'm going to show you in a couple minutes.
The same curses apply to them. Yes.
Why does it seem like more so?
All right, I'm gonna start right there. So basically, he read Deuteronomy 28, 48, and 49. It says, therefore shall thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. So when you go back and start over here, you clearly see that the Most High brought our enemies from the other side of the world over here to the Americas. And they did put a yoke of iron upon who? Upon us, the so-called Negroes. So common sense should also tell you, when you go back and read Deuteronomy 20 and 48, it should tell you right here and there that the so-called Negroes scattered throughout North, South, Central America and the Caribbean Isles are indigenous and aboriginal of all these Americas. Period, point blank, man. Verse 49. Yahweh shall bring the nation against thee from the end, far from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flight. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And like I was saying before, when you go back and read Deuteronomy 28, 48, in particular dealing with the yoke of iron upon thy neck, not only happened to us as a people. See that? But I'm going to also show you right now, through historical documentations and artifacts and archaeology, on how that also correlates with Deuteronomy 28, 40, and 49 in terms of us so-called Negroes being indigenous of the continent. Just give me 1 minute right now. Let me minimize this for now. Alright, I'm going to show y'all what these other cats... Hold on. What these other cats out there won't show y'all. Because they like to try to utilize the history of the Americas to try to insinuate that so-called Hispanics and Native Americans were indigenous of this place, and they were also the Hebrew Israelites that the Torah speaks about, which is falsely, totally incorrect. Because they never go into all of the primary sources and documentations and ancient archaeology and artifacts to show us that we were the ones who are indigenous of this continent, and we've always been here all throughout the Americas. As you clearly see, this is an ancient stone head or carving of an Olmec that you clearly see all throughout over there in Central America, Mesoamerica, called Mexico. And I have also more documentations to also prove to you that the indigenous people of Mexico, which are the quote-unquote so-called Negroes, were the first one on that particular landmass. When you look at his phenotype, you can clearly see that's the so-called Negro. He doesn't look like a typical so-called Hispanic or Mexican that you see today, man. This is factual. And we talking about at a time period way before the modern day Native Americans and Hispanics came to the Americas. But these are some of the artifacts and archaeology that none of these camps out there want to show to our people. They don't want to tell you that you are indigenous of this continent and this is your land. You see that? You can see all these different stone heads of the Olmecs all throughout Mexico. And a lot of descendants of the Olmecs are still here till this day. They're scattered all throughout the Americas. And a lot of them are the quote-unquote so-called Afro-Mexicans that you see dwelling all throughout Guerrero, Costa Chica, and so on and so forth. So you could also correlate that with Deuteronomy 28 chapter, verse 48 and 49. I'm going to go to the next one. All right. This is called the Codex Mendoza. When the Europeans came to the Americas, many of them painted on how the indigenous people of the continent looked like. And when they also came to the Americans, they also called us Moors, Blacks, and Ethiopians. So when many of the Spaniards came to Mexico, this is how they depicted the Aztecs. And I have way more proof to show you that the Aztecs were quote-unquote so-called Negroes and so-called black. And I also got proof to also show you that the Olmec, the Aztecs, and all these different tribes I'm about to show you right now were also Israelites. As you can see, you can clearly see that that's a quote-unquote so-called black man or so-called Negro. And on the bottom of it, let me see if I can zoom in right now. See, I can clearly see his face, but on the bottom of it right now, what you have is a quote-unquote modern-day so-called Mexican or so-called Hispanic. Because when these Eurasians came to the Americas around the 12 and the 1300 AD, we had wars against them. We had many, many wars against them. For the most part, they was never our friends. Even till this day, they was our enemies. They was our enemies back then, and they're our enemies till this day, man. Why none of these camps out there, none of these nigger camps out there who be kissing all these Hispanic and Native Americans' ass, showing you all these artifacts and archaeology about how greatness over here in the Americas? Because they have their own personal agendas. They want to cleave unto them and pretty much give our culture and our heritage away unto another group of people. So I'm going to go to the next one. All right. So over here, you have a Maya ruler being dressed with giant animal headdress. This is all in Mexico. This is what the Mayans look like of antiquity. You see that? You can clearly look through the phenotypes and see that they're quote-unquote so-called black. They all have Negro phenotypes. But all these other cats out there, they all want to give you the impression that what? They want to give you the impression that the Mayans are the so-called modern day, quote-unquote, so-called Hispanics that you see today, which is totally false, man. You see that? This is at the Bottom Pike mural down in Mexico. All the primary documentation and sources are all throughout this joint, man, from North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean Isle, proving to you that we are the people of the book of the Torah, and we are also indigenous and aborigines of this continent. We've always been here in the Americas. But none of these camps will bring this information out because they don't want to hurt the feelings of these Hispanics and natives whom they congregate with. I'm going to go to the next one. Alright, and over here, we got an image or a carving, ancient carving of a Mississippian mound builder. When you go back and check out and read about a lot of the mounds found all throughout North America, that was all us, man, who erected and built all those monuments. And you could clearly see all throughout his phenotype, I'm going to zoom in right here, that that's a so-called Negro. That's a so-called Negro. But they trying to tell you that all of us came over here in cargo slave ships, if I'm not mistaken, during the 1600s. And prior to the 1600s, there were no Negroes over here in the Americas. That's a goddamn lie. Because all the ancient carvings, all the ancient statues, all the archaeology, the anthropology, all the historical documentations says otherwise. And as well as all the different testimonies by different Europeans and Jesuits, who when they came over here, they give a description of what they saw. And the people that they saw all throughout the Americas, for the most part, were us. This is factual. We did not come from Africa. We did not come from the Middle East or any other place around the world, man. And you're also going to find out, too, and I'll make videos about it in the near future, that the stories of the Torah did not happen on the other side of the world or in the continent of Africa, but it happened right here in the Americas. So all you brothers out there who be in all these different camps, such as the Iuic, or any of these other camps out there, y'all better walk away from all these niggas, man. Real talk, man. Come back to your creator. You don't have to be part of any congregations or any camp to serve the Most High, man. You can serve the Most High on your own. Because all these camps are lying to y'all. They're leading you astray, man. So with that, I'm going to sign out. All praises due to Yahweh. Shalom.